Hello, and welcome to Multiversal Comics. I'm your host, Andy, and today I would like to discuss Detective Comics Annual 1989, a fantastic cover featuring Batman, his cape flowing, looking like a vampire bat, sweeping down on what looks to be a member of the Ku Klux Klan. Now, this story is, I have to say, very bizarre. I found it very bizarre, and the reason being, actually, before we continue, the cover that I showed you is by Brian Boland, who is one of the best cover artists of all time, in my opinion. Anyhow, back to the story. One of the strangest stories I've ever read, because it sheds a very strange light on Batman. A light that doesn't really make sense considering all the villains that he's had to fight over the years. And what happens at the end of this story really made me think that Batman has a bit of a vindictive streak which is misplaced. I'll explain more. The title of this particular story in this annual is Blood Secrets. A nice entrance. Batman coming through a large window. Anyhow, what this story is about is Batman in his earlier days, before he was Batman, he goes down to seek the assistance of a renowned detective by the name of Harvey. And there's Harvey right there. And Harvey is investigating murders that have taken place in a little place called Huntsville, somewhere in America, of course. There's Bruce Wayne coming down to discuss joining forces with Harvey, or rather shadowing Harvey. He's changed his name to Frank Dixon. And there's Harvey speaking to him. And finally, he says, "Yeah, you can join me. You can join me, Frank." Anyhow, cut a long story short, this story delves into the relationship between Bruce, aka Frank, and Harvey, how the role of teacher and student develops through the comics, and how Bruce develops, obviously, feelings of care and concern for Harvey, who he then takes on in a mentor role, investigating these murders. Now, the issue that I have with this particular story is that throughout the story, they're trying to find out the mystery of who the killer is. They eventually find out who the killer is. And the killer is this deranged chap who's got mental issues, who is basically going around killing people who he feels are connected to some wrongdoing that happened to him many, many years back. And there you go, that's that chap right there, dressed in red robes, killing this lady who is also connected to the story. This lady, by the way, was the wife of the leader of the Ku Klux Klan, who had killed a lot of black people earlier on in the story. And obviously a wrong was done to him as well, and so he has now come back to seek his revenge on anyone who was connected to that particular Ku Klux Klan member. Of course, eventually this chap dies, and in the process, Harvey also gets shot by this chap, Ben Carr. There's Bruce screaming out Harvey. And what else is he going to scream out? An emotional scene, to be sure. Turns out that Harvey, being a detective, knew that it was Bruce Wayne all along, knew his story, and basically gives him some words about how you gotta let it go, son. You know, you gotta live your life. Don't be angry with your parents for leaving you, etc., etc. Very sobering scene right there. Now, the real issue I have with this comic is that Batman, at the start of the comics, had entered that room through that large window. That was the room of one Dr. Falk. And as you'll see, going back in time again, There's Bruce trying to figure out how did these murders start happening? What's happening? What has led to Harvey's death? What was he actually investigating? What has the Ku Klux Klan got to do with all of this? All right, so he's about to go back, but then suddenly, as far as the people of Huntsville were concerned, Frank Dixon was gone. That was him. He was calling himself Frank Dixon. A memory to be forgotten. Scary. By all but one. Now, this guy, Dr. Falk, F-A-L-K, very interesting arc we're about to reach. There's Bruce. Frank, I thought you were gone. I thought I was too. You startled me. I came to pay my private respects. I wanted to tell you that I stopped by to see Mrs. Hunt. Really? I didn't think that she'd make it. I know. She and I had a talk about the past and about a maid named Mabel. She knows something more about the murders? Not directly, Dr. Falk, but between the two of us, we've uncovered some fascinating facts. Would you like to hear about them? Son, there are no other facts. Not so. There's what Harvey and I learned from the judge. He told us two things that puzzled me. The first was that a quarter century back, when Mrs. Hunt left her husband, it was quite unexpected and quite mysterious. An interesting anomaly in a small town with few secrets. The second was that to this day, what the judge remembers most vividly about the Shantytown raid, which we saw at the start of the book, is how Hunt killed his former maid, Mabel, himself with amazing ferocity. After 6 years, and in such circumstances, it's unlikely that Hunt would even recognize her. Untrue. Mrs. Hunt says Mabel had visited her former employers the week before, and she wasn't alone. She brought her 6-year-old son. His father was Richard Hunt. So guys, at this point I have to explain that Richard Hunt, the racist, had had an affair with his black maid, Mabel, through which a son was born, and then Mabel had come back to the house of her former employer with the son, who was at that time 6 years old. Anyway, to cut a long story short, the wife of the leader, upon discovering what had happened, had left the husband. The husband had become furious, and then he had basically decided to kill Mabel and anyone connected with Mabel, which is why he did the raid. At the start of the book, we saw that raid taking place to kill Mabel and the son and get it over and done with. Now, guess who the son was? That's right. Dr. Falk. Dr. Falk was the son of Mabel, whose father was Richard Hunt, the racist who had killed his mother. All right, guys, we've got that? Dr. Falk's mother, the black maid, was killed by his white supremacist father, Richard Hunt. And he's just been discovered by Bruce Wayne. Anyway, he tries to make a break for it. Not quite. Not quite, says Bruce. Anyway, there's Richard Falk trying to make a run of it. But Bruce stops him. As you can see, he's freaked out, very upset, because he feels that Dr. Falk, because of his planning in this whole thing, because Dr. Falk, you see, he's crippled. He can't do these things himself. He basically gets somebody else to do the killing for him by manipulating that person who hated Richard Hunt's family anyway into killing everyone associated with Richard Hunt. And now Bruce is saying that because of whatever you did, even though you didn't kill these people directly, because of your actions, a lot of people died, and his friend Harvey, the detective, got killed. All right? Now, this is where it gets interesting. Dr. Falk says, I had to pay them back. They killed my mother. You don't know how much that hurts, what it does to you. There's Bruce, thinking, actually, mate, I do know what it feels like. I mean, he doesn't say it, but that's what he's thinking. That's the expression on his face. I should feel victorious, but one thing sours it. You have no proof. That's right, Falk. The most astounding, frustrating part of it all. We both know what you did, but you've left not one shred of real evidence. I'm not proud of myself, Frank, but is it so wrong to avenge your family? No. No, it's not so wrong to avenge your family because Bruce has been doing it day in, day out. When he became Batman, okay, he doesn't kill people, but then Dr. Falk hasn't killed anyone either, okay? He doesn't kill people, but he does beat them up really badly and then he puts them in jail, all right? Perhaps that's something we each have to work out for ourselves. Perhaps your victims deserve what they got. I think so. Harvey Harris did not. Look, Dr. Falk did not plan on killing Harvey Harris, okay? I'm sorry about Harvey, but the law can't touch me. There's law, and there's justice. What have you gained by all this? Nothing. You've put yourself in your own prison, and I'll always be around to make sure you stay there. That's the promise I made, and that's the promise I'll keep. Okay, so they moved into the present now with Dr. Falk an old man, and of course Bruce having matured. For the rest of our lives. You keep coming back. After all these years, you can't still be angry. Angry? No. I was taught better than that. Good night, Doctor. We'll do this again. And then we cut out with this picture of Dr. Falk, a man beaten, old, lonely, and obviously quite disturbed by this chap who keeps coming to pester him every single year. Now, guys, that's a cool shot, by the way. That's a very cool shot, I think. Nice. That's also pretty cool. But that's just heartbreaking, isn't it? Now, here's what I don't understand. Okay, let's take this guy, Dr. Falk. In the grand scheme of things, he's not really a supervillain. He hasn't gone around killing people for the joy of it, like the Joker does, who's complete chaos, by the way. You know, Killer Croc, right? Killer Croc, he sometimes eats his victims. You got the Riddler, you got Penguin, all, you know, he was a mafia boss. Riddler's got issues. I mean, so many. Scarecrow is another one. Psychos who go around killing countless numbers of people, right? And of course, Batman's arch nemesis, the Joker, who just kills for the heck of it. Does Batman treat them with the same level of, disdain as he does this guy, Dr. Falk? I mean, it just seems completely odd. You know, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you mentally torture the Joker or the Riddler or someone like that? And for God's sakes, look, this guy, he's a broken man, broken in mind, broken in body, broken in spirit. He was just taking revenge because his mother got killed. He didn't do it himself. Someone else did it. He just pulled the strings here and there. But technically speaking, he hasn't done it himself, has he? Give him a break. Batman, Bruce, give him a break. But he doesn't. So I'm thinking of all the people in the world who would understand what this guy is going through. It's this guy. Where's his mercy? Where's his feeling towards another human being who's gone through something similar to what he has? I mean, yes, reprimand him, give him a lecture, tell him how bad he's been, but you can tell that he hasn't enjoyed doing what he's done. Go and pick on the Joker. Go and pick on Killer Croc. Go and pick on all these other people who are actual monsters. But no, you decide to waste your time coming after a disabled old man who was just taking revenge for his murdered mother. Shame on you. Shame on you, Bruce. Shame on you, Batman. I just don't know. I just don't know what to make of this story. I don't know why they did this. I don't know why they turned him into this complete maniac who's got the time and the energy and the vindictiveness to come after this old man. But in this instance, seriously, I find myself rooting for the villain, the so-called villain, this guy, Dr. Falk. All he did was to take revenge for his mother. And, you put yourself in his shoes. What would you do, right? Anyhow, that's me signing out. See you guys on the next one. Bye.